You shouldn't be in here. The voice wasn't loud, but it vibrated inside his ribs, a low, resonant hum that felt less like sound waves and more like a gentle, internal earthquake. Cale froze, his hand still on the severed conduit. The derelict cruiser's interior was a mess of ruptured plating and frozen atmosphere crystals, dimly lit by the sickly green emergency lights that still pulsed in some sections. He was deep in scavenger territory, far from any reputable port, and finding anyone else alive, let alone here, was statistically absurd. He hadn't picked up a single life sign blip on his battered scanner. He turned slowly, his grip tightening on the cutter. The source of vibration was nestled in a collapsed section of the command bridge, partially obscured by twisted metal. Not human. Definitely not human. Its form was indistinct in the gloom, but it pulsed with soft, internal light, shifting patterns of sapphire and amethyst blooming, and fading beneath what looked like a delicate, layered outer structure. The light intensified slightly as it spoke again. Your mass signature registered when you breached the outer hull. Then, silence. A very small silence. The voice resonated again, a blend of that physical hum and something that felt like it was transmitted directly into his thoughts, bypassing his ears. It was strangely melodic, even with the underlying tension. Yeah, well, I'm quiet. Professional courtesy. Cale kept his voice even, his eyes scanning for threats. Was it armed? Was it alone? The glow didn't seem hostile, but then he'd never seen anything like it. The light shifted to a vibrant gold, radiating a different kind of energy that made the air around it feel warmer. Courtesy? You are taking resources. Resources his vessel no longer requires, but still. The golden light pulsed rhythmically, matching the internal hum. There is sadness in this place. Your presence adds to it. Look, I'm just grabbing some fusion cells and maybe that NAV computer, if it's intact. Survival, not sentimentality. He took a cautious step closer, trying to get a better look. The creature's shape resolved slightly, elongated perhaps, with graceful, fin-like protrusions along what might be limbs. The light patterns were complex, constantly moving, like a living nebula captured in fragile form. They seemed to ripple outwards, and Cale felt a faint pressure against his mind, like a question he couldn't quite grasp. Survival requires connection, not scavenging the bones of the lost. The sapphire and amethyst returned, sharper now, almost brittle. The hum dipped in frequency, a note of what Cale could only interpret as sorrow, or perhaps irritation. Are you solitary? Cale flinched internally at the unexpected personal question. Yeah, that's how I like it. He didn't like it. Not anymore. But saying that to a glowing thing in a dead ship felt absurd. He needed those cells. His own ship was barely running on fumes. You don't let me get what I need. Or do we have a problem? He gestured vaguely with the cutter. The creature shifted, the golden light flaring again, brighter this time, almost blinding him for a second. He shielded his eyes. A problem? You cannot even perceive my form correctly in this dimness. You think that crude tool could harm me? The resonance deepened, becoming a physical force that pressed against his chest, making it hard to breathe. I could render your nervous system inert with a thought. Yet, you persist. Your biological tenacity is interesting. The pressure subsided abruptly. The light softened back to the gentle sapphire and amethyst flow. Cale gasped, pulling in a ragged breath. Okay, definitely not just a pretty light show. All right. Truce. He lowered the cutter slightly, but didn't drop it. What do you want? You're clearly not stuck if you can do that. I am stuck. Physically. The creature extended one of the fin-like appendages slowly. It trembled slightly. Cale saw now that part of the structure was nestled and had collapsed onto this appendage, pinning it. The appendage itself pulsed with a rapid, irregular gold light. Pain? The stress resonance of this metal is disruptive, and I cannot apply sufficient localized frequency to phase through it without causing myself significant damage. The resonant hum felt weak now, strained. Cale lowered the cutter completely. Pity wasn't usually on his emotional menu, but the sight of the injured appendage, the halting resonance, triggered something unexpected. He'd seen enough traps, enough suffering. You need help? Your species is capable of manipulating dense matter manually. The golden light on the trapped appendage pulsed desperately. My own methods are currently inhibited. Yes, I require assistance. Great. Just my luck. Kale sighed. All right. What needs to be moved? He still needed those fusion cells, and getting this thing out might give him access to more of the ship. Survival, he reminded himself. But maybe there was something else too. Something in the steady, unwavering gaze of the glowing patterns. Something intensely vulnerable beneath the powerful resonance. He took another step closer. The stale, cold air of the derelict suddenly feeling charged with strange, unfamiliar energy. He could feel the creature's presence now not just as a physical vibration, but as an emotional resonance too, a powerful mix of pain, impatience, and a deep, quiet resolve. It was unsettling, captivating. He knelt beside the twisted metal, the sapphire and amethyst light washing over him. He felt a strange urge to reach out and touch the light itself. He resisted. For now, he knelt by the twisted beam pinning the creature's appendage. It wasn't a simple piece of metal. It was part of a reinforced frame, heavy and stubborn. Okay, this is going to take some leverage. You got anything heavy I can use? The creature's light pattern shifted, a flicker of what might have been confusion or annoyance. Heavy? You speak of crude mass? My form is light, composed primarily of energy resonance contained within a crystalline structure. It paused, the sapphire pattern swirling. But this material, yes, it requires physical force. You possess that. Thanks for the biology lesson. Got anything else? A crowbar? A lift pack? Anything? Kale ran a hand over the cool, rough metal. He'd need to jury-rig something. There's a compartment. Nearby, the creature's resonant hum directed his attention. He felt the subtle shift in frequency pointing him towards a bulkhead further down the corridor. Tools were stored there. For the external manipulators. External manipulators meant heavy lifting gear. Kale nodded. All right, stay put. Try not to. Vibrate me into a coma while I'm gone. The golden light on the trapped appendage flared briefly in what he took as agreement. He stood up, rubbing his chest where the resonance had pressed. As he walked towards the compartment, he could still feel the creature's presence, a faint hum following him, a persistent, gentle pressure like being watched not just with eyes, but with something deeper. He could almost feel the rhythm of its light patterns in his mind. Inside the compartment, amidst dust and disused equipment, he found a hydraulic pry bar. It was bulky, designed for spacesuit use, but it would work. He hefted it, testing its weight. As he turned back towards the command bridge, a low siren began to wail somewhere in the derelict, a mournful, mechanical cry that cut through the silence. What was that? He called out, hurrying his pace. Warning siren. A vessel has docked with the main airlock. The creature's voice was sharp now, the resonance tight with alarm. They are not of this vessel's configuration. The sapphire light was pulsing rapidly, jagged flashes of deep indigo appearing within the pattern. Others. They hunt me. Slavers. Kale breathed, a cold knot forming in his stomach. He knew that specific docking signature. He'd run from it before. They specialize in valuable, rare targets. And this glowing creature, it looked like something someone would pay a fortune for. Damn it! He reached the command bridge, the siren growing louder, closer. He saw the creature was actively struggling against the beam now, the gold on its appendage a furious, desperate strobe. They are here. They sense my resonance signature. The warning siren confirms it. They are bypassing security protocols. Okay. Kale knelt again, positioning the pry bar under the edge of the beam. Gotta time this right. When I lift, you gotta pull yourself free. Ready? The creature didn't reply, but its resonant hum intensified, a focused, powerful energy gathering. Kale gritted his teeth, straining against the pry bar. The hydraulics whined. The metal groaned, protesting. Slowly, agonizingly, the beam began to lift. Now, he yelled, pushing with all his might. With a surge of brilliant, almost painful golden light and a powerful, vibrating hum that shook the deck plates. The creature pulled its appendage free. Kale collapsed as the beam crashed back down, the impact echoing through the derelict. Free! The creature resonated, the hum breathless. Its appendage was still pulsing gold, but the frantic energy had lessened. Yeah, free just in time to get caught. Kale grunted, pushing himself up. Footsteps echoed down the corridor outside the bridge. Heavy metallic footsteps. Slavers in magnetic boots. My ship's docked 3 decks down. We need to move. Now. He didn't wait for a response. Scrambling towards an emergency exit, leading away from a main docking port. He glanced back. The creature was moving surprisingly fast, gliding over the debris, its light pattern shifting from sharp indigo to a flowing silver that seemed to absorb the ambient light, making it less visible. It followed him without hesitation, a silent, resonant shadow. Stay close, Kale muttered, navigating the ruined corridors by instinct. They'll have scanners. Try to keep whatever you're doing subtle. Subtle. The creature's resonant hum held a note of bewildered offense. My resonance is my being. How can I be subtle in existing? Just try not vibrate the whole ship apart, okay? Kale didn't have time for existential debates. They reached a vertical shaft, the ladder partially damaged. Climb. Fast. He started up, testing each rung before putting his weight on it. He could hear the slavers calling out to each other in harsh, distorted voices somewhere behind them. He climbed quickly, heart hammering against his ribs. Behind him, he could feel the creature ascending too, its resonant hum a low vibration that felt unnervingly close, almost touching his back. He could sense its light, dimmer now, a controlled pulse of silver white just below him. He reached the access hatch to the next deck and pushed it open, pulling himself through. The air here was colder, thinner. Move, he hissed, reaching down a hand. The creature flowed through the hatch opening, a cascade of shifting light that condensed back into its elongated form beside him. He got a clearer look at it in the dim light. Its structure was intricate, layered, almost crystalline, and the bioluminescent patterns weren't just on the surface, but seemed to flow within it. They are detecting fluctuations. The creature resonated urgently, the silver patterns rippling like disturbed water. My containment field is strained. Containment field? Kale frowned, grabbing her. It? The creature's form was undeniably graceful, evoking a sense of femininity despite its alienness. He settled on her mentally. Grabbing her was like grabbing light. His fingers passed through a subtle energy field before encountering a surface that felt like cool, smooth crystal. He pulled her towards the next corridor. What do you mean, containment field? My energy resonance is significant. Without deliberate focus, it would affect the molecular structure around me. The field keeps it, ordered. She moved beside him, a flow of silver and urgent, flickering gold. The stress of the metal, the proximity of their disruptive technology, it weakens a field. I must reinforce it. Her hum intensified, and Kale felt a momentary dizziness, like the air was vibrating around them. Okay, reinforce it later, he snapped, pulling her along. Right now we run. My ship's hangar is this way. They moved to the derelict like ghosts, Kale navigating from memory and instinct, the creature following, its resonance a constant, vibrating presence that was starting to feel less like an external force and more like an internal awareness within him. He could sense her fear, her focus, her strange, alien determination as if it were his own. He felt a kinship with her desperation that went beyond the immediate threat. He'd spent years running, hiding, surviving alone. This sudden, forced partnership was jarring, terrifying, and oddly comforting. They reached the main cargo bay overlooking the small auxiliary hangar, where Kale's ship, the Straylight, was docked. From their vantage point in the shadows, they could see 2 bulky figures in magnetized suits near his ship, scanning the area. They had already spread out. They anticipated this. Lyra's resonant hum was low, tight. The silver patterns pulsed with a cold, hard light. They know my habits, my likely escape vectors. Lyra, Kale tested the sound of the name. It fit the melodic quality of her resonance. It is sufficient. Her light patterns shifted, a brief, almost imperceptible bloom of a soft, iridescent blue within the silver. Something in that tiny, internal flicker felt intensely private. Okay, Lyra, they're between us and the ship. We can't go through them. Cale scanned the bay. There was a maintenance crawl space running along the upper wall. Small, cramped, not ideal, but maybe. Crawl space leads to the secondary access tunnel. Should come out near the hangar emergency exit. Cramped spaces disrupt my field integrity, she responded immediately, the blue fading back into sharp silver. The resonance reflects internally. Better than getting bagged by slavers. Cale hissed, already moving toward the access panel for crawl space. He wrestled it open. It was a tight fit, even for him. He squeezed inside, the smell of old grease and dust filling his nostrils. Come on. He could feel her hesitation. The silver light wavered outside the opening. It is unpleasant. Nobody said this was going to be pleasant. Get in. With what felt like a conscious effort, her form seemed to contract, flowing into the narrow space after him. The instant she was inside, the resonant hum became amplified, echoing in a confined metal tube. Cale felt it intensely, not just in his chest, but vibrating in his teeth, behind his eyes. It was disorienting, overwhelming. Her silver light filled the space, close and pressing, and he could see the intricate flow of the patterns now, complex fractals blooming and collapsing in a silent, dazzling display just inches from his face. Too close, she resonated, her voice strained. The hum pulsed rapidly, a frantic rhythm that mirrored the frantic beating of his own heart. My field, I cannot maintain it fully in this density. Cale felt it. The air around them seemed to thicken, shimmering with energy. He could feel a tingling sensation spreading across his skin, deeper than just external touch. It felt like his own internal vibrations were syncing up with hers, resonating in harmony or maybe discord. It was terrifying and intoxicating at the same time. He could feel her presence, her form, with a clarity that went beyond sight or sound. He felt the delicate structure, the powerful energy contained within, the sheer otherness of her being in a way that was profoundly intimate. Just keep going, he choked out, pushing forward to the cramped tunnel. The resonant vibration was becoming almost painful now, a pressure building in his skull. He could feel her just behind him, her light a blinding silver in the dark, her resonant hum a physical weight. This wasn't just close. This was intertwined. They crawled through the narrow space, the resonant hum a constant, vibrating envelope around them. Cale's senses felt heightened, distorted by the intense energy emanating from Lyra in confined space. He could feel the delicate structure reform behind him, sense the flow of her internal light patterns, as if they were imprinted on his own awareness. His skin tingled, his nerves humming in response to her proximity. The field is fluctuating, Lyra resonated, her voice tight with discomfort. The reflection, it is amplifying internally, disorienting. Tell me about it, Cale muttered, pushing open the maintenance hatch leading out into the secondary access tunnel. It was just wide enough for him to squeeze through. He pulled himself out, gasping for air that didn't vibrate with alien energy. He extended a hand back into the crawl space. Come on, quick. She flowed out after him, her form expanding slightly as she left the narrow confines. The intense, echoing hum subsided, but a significant portion of the resonant energy seemed to linger around Cale, like an invisible cloak. He felt changed. His hearing seemed sharper, picking up distant sounds in the derelict. His body felt strangely sensitive, tingling all over. Lyra landed lightly beside him, her silver light softening slightly, though still flickering with lingering distress. That was unpleasant, she repeated, her hum shaky. She looked at him, her light patterns shifting to complex swirls of silver and a faint, questioning green. Your internal resonance. It is reacting strangely to mine. Have you been exposed to concentrated energy before? Not like that, Cale said, rubbing his temples. His head ached with a lingering vibration, usually just sparks and static. Nothing that makes my bones feel like they're buzzing. He could still hear the slavers, closer now, their voices echoing. "No time for medical consultations," he said, starting down the access tunnel toward the hangar emergency exit. "My ship's just through here." They reached the exit hatch. Cale peered through the small viewplate. His ship was still there, undisturbed, but the two slavers were now standing right beside it, conferring. Another figure was visible near the main cargo bay entrance, blocking that route. "They have us cornered," Lyra resonated, her light flashing with sharp, anxious indigo. "Not yet." Cale scanned the hatch controls. There was an override for emergency release. It would be loud, unsecured, and definitely draw attention, but it was their only option. "Get ready. Soon as this hatch opens, we run for the ship. Don't stop for anything." He activated the override. A loud klaxon blared, the hatch hissing and cycling open with a clang. The slavers looked up, startled. "Go!" Cale yelled, bursting out of the tunnel. Lyra was right beside him, moving with impossible grace, a streak of silver light across the hangar floor. Cale sprinted towards the Strelite's boarding ramp, drawing the battered energy pistol from his holster. The slavers recovered quickly, raising their own weapons. Energy bolts lanced across the hangar, slamming into crates and bulkheads. Cale fired back, aiming for torso mass to disable, not kill. He ducked behind a stack of plating, peering out. Lyra wasn't firing. Her form seemed to shimmer, and he felt a surge of resonant energy pass through him, a wave of disorientation that he realized was hitting the slavers too. One of them stumbled, momentarily lowering their weapon. "My field expanded briefly," she resonated breathlessly from beside him, her silver light flickering wildly. It disoriented their sensory arrays. "Keep doing that," Cale yelled, taking advantage of the distraction to blast a slaver in the arm. They staggered back, clutching the scorched limb. The second slaver raised their heavy pulse rifle. Cale dove for cover as a torrent of energy bolts tore into the plating he'd just been behind. "The ship," Lyra urged, already gliding toward the ramp. Cale broke cover and sprinted, firing a shot over his shoulder. He reached the ramp just behind Lyra and scrambled aboard, hitting the ramp controls to retract it. Inside the cockpit, he slammed the lockdown sequence. The ship shuddered as energy bolts hammered against the hull plating. He dived into the pilot's seat, hitting the ignition sequence. The Strelite scavenged engines groaned to life, a low rumble through the hull. He glanced at Lyra, who was standing just behind the co-pilot's chair, her light shifting from silver to a steady, intense gold. She was watching the main screen, which showed the slavers outside, now joined by a third figure moving from the cargo bay entrance. "They are attempting to breach the outer hull," she resonated calmly, though the golden light was almost painful to look at now. "Their frequency drills are annoying. Cale grinned grimly. "They'll be through the hull in 20 seconds. He pulled the throttle back. "Strap in." "I do not." "Strap." Lyra's light pulse gold. "My form is resilient to inertial forces." "Fine. Hold on to something." Cale didn't wait for a response, punching the thrusters. The Strelite leaped forward, scraping the hangar deck as he angled sharply upwards. Alarms blared as the ship cleared the bay and accelerated into the derelict's inner space. He flew evasively through the ruins, weaving between girders and shattered sections. The slaver ship now launched from the main airlock, a persistent blip on his radar. "They are faster than you," Lyra resonated, her golden light intense. "Their ship is designed for pursuit." "Yeah, well, I know this wreck better than they do," Cale replied, dodging a collapsed walkway. He needed to reach the open space outside the derelict. Once they were out of the dense debris field, his agility might give him an edge, or at least let him make a jump. He pushed the engines to their limit, the old ship groaning in protest. The pursuer was gaining. He could feel Lyra's presence beside him, a vibrating pillar of golden light. He felt a strange sensitivity in his body again, a residual hum from the crawl space. It felt like his nervous system was still singing with her energy. "They are targeting vital systems," Lyra said, her golden light flaring in response to incoming fire. "Their weapon resonance is discordant." Cale felt a jolt as something hit the engine housing. Alarm screamed. "Lost the secondary thruster." Can't maintain this acceleration. Turn toward the central core. Lyra resonated, her light swirling into a vortex of pure, blinding gold. The residual energy signature is unstable. It will interfere with their targeting. Unstable? What's in there? Kale squinted at the NAV screen. The central core was a mass of overlapping energy signatures and structural damage. Flying into it was suicidal. Trust me, she resonated, her hum resonating deep in his core, a command he felt compelled to obey despite all his survival instincts screaming otherwise. Their technology is sensitive to high-energy disruption. Mine, less so. Kale hesitated for only a fraction of a second. Then he banked the ship hard, plunging toward the heart of the derelict's ruins. The structural debris thickened, the air thick with static and stray energy fluctuations. His sensors went wild, painting the screen with false positives and distortions. He felt the familiar chill of fear, but beneath it, the steady, intense presence of Lyra was a strange anchor. The pursuer hesitated, their targeting arrays struggling with the interference. Kale weaved to the unstable core, the ship buffeted by invisible forces. He could feel Lyra's golden light beside him, a shield against chaos. Her resonant hum was a steady beacon in the storm of energy. Now, she resonated, the gold light suddenly pulsing outwards in a massive, invisible wave. Kale felt a shock wave pass through the ship, a surge of pure energy that made every system flicker. On the main screen, the pursuer's ship was momentarily wreathed in static and chaotic energy readings. Their weapons' fire ceased. Their targeting is neutralized, Lyra resonated, her golden light dimming slightly, though still brilliant. It will take them time to recalibrate. Time we use to jump, Kale said, punching in coordinates for a random, uninhabited system light years away. The NAV computer chimed confirmation. Hold on. He engaged the jump drive. The familiar, disorienting lurch of FDL transit enveloped the ship. Stars elongated into streaks of light, then vanished as they transitioned into hyperspace. The ship was silent now, save for the hum of the engines and the soft, steady resonance of Lyra beside him. He leaned back in the pilot's chair, running a trembling hand over his face. Well, that was a day. He looked at Lyra. Her golden light was now fading back, leaving a soft, constant sapphire and amethyst glow. The silver was gone. The painful gold was gone. This softer light felt calmer. Your cooperation was effective, she resonated, her hum softer now, a comforting vibration in the quiet cockpit. Though your methods are crude and loud. Crude and loud is how I stay alive, Kale replied, feeling the residual buzz in his body. What about you? You still vibrating? My resonance is stabilizing, she said. The journey is smoother than I expected. Your ship is surprisingly intact. She's seen better days, but she holds together, Kale said, feeling a fondness for his beaten-up vessel. He looked at Lyra again, at the gentle flow of blue and violet light that made the cockpit feel strangely warm. The intense intimacy of the crawl space lingered, a memory imprinted on his senses. He had felt her form, her energy, with a raw, unfiltered closeness that was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It had been terrifying, yes, but also strangely beautiful, a connection forged not by words, but by sheer vibration and desperate proximity. So, Kale said, turned to face her fully in the quiet cockpit. Lyra's sapphire and amethyst light pulsed gently, a soft, rhythmic flow that seemed to match the hum of the ship's engines. The lingering sensitivity in his body was still there, a faint echo of the intense resonance they had shared in the confined spaces of the derelict and during the escape. It was no longer disorienting. It was just part of him now, a subtle awareness of something beyond his usual senses. So, she resonated back, her hum calm. We are no longer in immediate danger. Temporarily. Temporarily is the best I ever get, Kale said, a wry smile touching his lips. He felt oddly relaxed, the adrenaline of the escape slowly draining away. Being alone on his ship was his default state, the quiet emptiness of familiar comfort. But with Lyra here, the silence felt different, less empty. He watched her light patterns. The sapphire and amethyst flowed like deep water, occasionally interrupted by a gentle swirl of iridescent green or a fleeting shimmer of soft gold. They seemed to tell a story he couldn't read, a silent language of light and vibration. Your ship. It is functional, she resonated, stating the obvious. Yeah, just barely. Needs repairs, supplies, a place to lay low for a while. My needs are different, she said. My form requires specific environmental resonance frequencies to remain stable. And sustenance. Kale blinked. Sustenance? You eat? Her light shifted to a pattern that Kale interpreted as amusement or perhaps tolerant exasperation. Not in your fashion. I absorb energy from specific stellar radiation patterns or concentrated resonant fields. This sector is sparse. Great, Kale sighed. So I can't just drop you off at the nearest space station and call it even. Is that what you wish? Her light pattern pulsed, a rapid, sharp question woven into the gentle flow. He felt a faint pressure in his chest, a ripple of anticipation? Or maybe it was just the residual sensitivity. Kale hesitated. Dropping her off would be the smart thing to do. Get rid of the target, the complication. But the memory of her light filling the crawl space, the feeling of her resonant energy intertwined with his, the sheer vulnerability he had sensed beneath her power. He couldn't just leave her. Not now. No, he said finally. No, I don't wish that. He looked away from her light, focusing on the streaking lines of hyperspace outside the cockpit viewports. You helped me get out of there. I helped you. We're connected, I guess. For now. Connected. Her resonant hum seemed to linger on the word. The sapphire and amethyst glow deepened, a richer, warmer shade. He felt a corresponding warmth spread through his chest, centered on that vibrating point where her resonance still seemed to echo within him. What happens now? Kale asked. We find a place where my form can stabilize, she said, and where we are not. Found. That narrows it down to maybe 3 systems in this whole sector, Kale muttered. And they're all ghost towns or officially off limits. Survival often requires traversing. Inconvenient paths, she responded. Kale looked back at her. The intricate dance of light within her form was mesmerizing. He wanted to understand it, to read the language of her glow and resonance. He felt a deep, almost primal curiosity about her, this creature of light and vibration who had so unexpectedly entered his solitary life and turned his senses inside out. Yeah, Inconvenient is my middle name, he said. All right, Lyra. Inconvenient path it is. We'll need to find a system with the right kind of star for you, and a planet to hide on. She nodded slowly, a graceful inclination of her elongated form. Her light pattern settled into a calm, steady rhythm. The cockpit filled with comfortable silence, broken only by the ship's hum and her soft, resonant presence. The intense physical intimacy of their escape had faded, replaced by a different kind of closeness, a quiet, shared understanding that they were adrift together, their fates unexpectedly bound. Kale felt a strange sense of peace settle over him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. It was precarious, fragile, but it was real. He had survived alone for years. Now, maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't have it anymore. He felt the residual vibration in his body, the faint echo of her energy, and it felt less like a strange affliction and more like a mark of their connection. Hyperspace unfolded around them, a blur of non-space and impossible distances. Kale kept the stray light steady, monitoring the navigation system. Lyra remained near the co-pilot's chair, her soft, constant glow a reassuring presence in the dim cockpit. The intense sensory resonance from the crawl space had subsided significantly, leaving behind only a faint, persistent tingling sensation that seemed to originate deep within Kale's own body. It was subtle now, but undeniable. He could feel minute shifts in the ship's energy output, detect changes in temperature or air pressure that he wouldn't have noticed before. It was like his senses had been recalibrated, made more finely attuned. To her, the hyperspace resonance is interesting, Lyra hummed, her light patterns flowing in smooth, complex waves. It interacts with my field in a way that is both stimulating and draining. Stimulating and draining. Kale repeated. Sounds about right. Hyperspace usually just makes me want to sleep for a week. Your species experiences fatigue, she stated, not as a question. Yeah, running from slavers tends to do that too. Kale stretched, feeling the stiffness in his muscles. I should probably get some rest. Ship's on autopilot, mostly stable. Rest is unfamiliar to my current form, she said. My energy levels fluctuate, requiring stabilization but not cessation of consciousness. Kale turned in his seat to look at her properly. The soft sapphire and amethyst glow was serene, but he could see faint, rapid fluctuations within the patterns, like an internal tremor. You're not stable here, are you? She hesitated. The light patterns shifted, a brief flicker of something that looked like vulnerability. The required frequency is absent in this void. It requires specific stellar radiation, or a large, stable energy source, like a planet, or a specific type of nebula, or a captured star fragment. She listed the possibilities, her resonance tinged with a quiet weariness. This transit will deplete my reserves. How long can you last? Kale asked, the knot of worry tightening in his gut. He was responsible for her now. He hadn't asked for it, but here they were. It is difficult to calculate precisely. Hours, perhaps, before the field integrity begins to degrade significantly. Her light pulsed with a quiet intensity. The effect would be detrimental. Detrimental how? My form would lose cohesion. My consciousness would disperse. Kale felt a cold shock. You die. In your terminology. Yes. He stared at her, at the beautiful, fragile light. He had just enough fuel to make it to the nearest system he thought might have the right kind of star. It was a long shot. A desolate system, rumored to have been mined out centuries ago. Okay, he said, pushing himself up. Okay, hyperspace jump is usually about 10 hours for this distance. That gives us a little time. He went back to the navigation console, pulling up the system data. It was thin, old information. Designation, Xylo 7. Star type, G-class dwarf, old, stable. Planetary data, mostly gas giants and asteroid fields. One terrestrial planet listed. Class M, noted as unremarkable, no significant resources. Xylo 7, he said. Got a G-class star. Maybe that's enough? A G-class dwarf. It is not ideal, but it may provide sufficient spectrum to alleviate the decay. Her light seemed to brighten slightly with a flicker of hope. Any planets? Something we can actually land on? She resonated, the hum a low, querying sound. He saw the intricate patterns within her light swirl rapidly, as if processing information. The third orbital body. Classified, terrestrial. Resonance signature is complex. Contains dense matter composition. Atmospheric composition is tolerable for my current field parameters. Unstable weather patterns. Moderate tectonic activity. Sounds charming, Kale muttered. A Class M planet, even unremarkable, was better than nothing. A place to land, replenish water and air, maybe find some old mining structures for shelter. And if the star was even marginally helpful to Lyra, it was their best shot. We're going to Xylo 7, he announced, confirming the coordinates. He spent the next few hours monitoring the ship, checking systems, trying to distract himself from the creeping anxiety about Lyra's condition and the unsettling sensitivity in his own body. The tingling was still there, a constant reminder of her proximity, of the raw energy exchange in the crawl space. He could feel the subtle fluctuations in her light, the slight weakening of her resonant hum as the hours wore on. She was fading. Are you all right? He asked finally, unable to stand the silence any longer. Her light patterns were less vibrant now, the sapphire and amethyst deeper, almost somber. I am maintaining, she resonated, her voice fainter. The depletion is proceeding as anticipated. The discomfort is significant. Discomfort? It feels as if my core is unraveling. The field is weakening. Molecular cohesion is arduous. Kale clenched his fists. He hated feeling helpless. His skills were about fixing metal, avoiding trouble, making things work with minimal resources. Keeping a creature of light and resonance from dissolving wasn't in his usual repertoire. "We'll be there soon," he said, his voice rough. "Just hold on." He watched her, a silent vigil in the hyperspace void. Her light flickered occasionally, like a dying flame. The tingling in his own body seemed to intensify, almost mirroring her weakening state, as if they were somehow energetically linked now. The thought was both alarming and strangely comforting. Finally, the hyperspace transition ended with a jarring lurch, throwing them back into normal space. The straylight dropped out near the outer edge of the Xylo's 7 system. The star was a small, yellow-white point of light in the blackness, unremarkable just like the data had said. Detecting the stellar frequency, Lyra resonated, her voice gaining a flicker of strength, her light brightening slightly. A faint, hopeful gold appeared within the sapphire. "It is present. Sufficient. Good." Kale breathed, relief flooding him. "Okay, let's find that planet." He navigated the ship through the asteroid belt towards a third orbital body. As they approached, the planet resolved on a view screen, a swirling mass of brown and gray cloud cover, punctuated by what looked like towering, jagged mountain ranges and deep, shadowed valleys. It didn't look welcoming. "Atmospheric entry will be turbulent," Lyra observed, her light stable now, the gentle flow of blue and violet returning. "Story of my life," Kale said, bringing the ship into orbit. He scanned the surface, looking for a potential landing site. Most of the planet was covered in violent storm systems, lightning flashing within the clouds. He spotted a break in the weather over a mountainous region, revealing a plateau dotted with what looked like ancient, crumbling structures. "Looks like some old mining outpost," he said, zooming in on the images. "Maybe sheltered from the worst of the storms. And maybe there's some residual energy there. Old power sources or something." Lyra's light pattern shifted, a complex ripple that he sensed as consideration. A concentration of processed materials could provide resonant frequencies. The structures may offer shelter. "All right, landing there." Kale began the descent sequence, guiding the straylight towards the plateau. The atmospheric entry was rough, the ship battered by turbulence. Alarms shrieked as hull temperature spiked. "The atmosphere is disruptive," Lyra resonated, her light wavering. "Hold on." Kale grunted, fighting the controls. The ship bucked and groaned. He saw the plateau appearing below the clouds, the crumbling structures looking even more desolate up close. He brought the ship in low, searching for a relatively flat spot among the ruins. He set the ship down hard in a clearing between 2 collapsed buildings. The landing gear groaned under the impact. Silence descended, broken only by the ship's settling groans and the howl of the wind outside. "We made it," Kale said, slumping back in his seat. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Made it," Lyra echoed, her light calming completely, the sapphire and amethyst returning to their steady, deep glow. "The local stellar radiation. It is sufficient. I can feel the resonant frequencies stabilizing my form." Kale looked at her, truly looked at her in the dim light of the cockpit. She was beautiful, in a way that defied conventional description. Her form was elegant, alien, and the soft, internal glow of her light patterns was captivating. The memory of feeling her energy, the strange sensitivity she had awakened in him, lingered. It wasn't just a memory. It was a physical sensation, a connection he could still feel humming beneath his skin. "So," he said, his voice quiet, "we're here. Now what?" She turned her light towards him. The patterns flowed, deep and calm. He felt her presence beside him, no longer frantic or strained, but stable, powerful, and utterly alien. The journey had tested them, forced them together, revealed vulnerabilities he hadn't known he had, and awakened senses he didn't understand. The temporary connection forged in desperation had brought them here, to this desolate planet under a quiet star. And now, the temporary was becoming something else. Something uncertain, but undeniably real. He still felt her presence, that strange, heightened sensitivity in his body. It was like a constant, subtle awareness of her, an internal echo of her light and resonance. He noticed small things he never would have before, the faint hum of the ship's life support, the subtle shift in air currents, the almost imperceptible tremors of the planet's surface. It was disorienting, but also strangely grounding. It felt like a perception of reality had expanded, encompassing her in a way he didn't understand. Lyra's light patterns flowed serenely, the sapphire and amethyst deep and rich in the quiet of the cockpit. The stellar frequency here is adequate for stabilization, she resonated, her voice stronger now, the hum steady. It allows my field to integrate the necessary energy spectrum. Good, Kale said, relief washing over him. At least she wasn't going to dissolve into nothingness. What about sustenance? Do you need more than just a star? She shifted slightly, her form elongating gracefully. Prolonged exposure is optimal, but concentrated resonant fields provide a more efficient source. This site, the residual energy signatures from the ancient mining operations, they may be sufficient for temporary sustenance. Okay, so we need to find those energy sources. Kale looked out at the desolate landscape, visible through the cockpit viewports. The crumbling structures were silhouetted against the faint light of the star. The wind howled, a mournful sound. Looks like we'll be spending some time here. He turned to her again. The soft glow of her light was captivating. The intimacy of the crawl space, the shared terror of the escape, the raw vulnerability revealed during the hyperspace transit. It had forged a bond between them that felt fragile but unbreakable. He had felt her despair, her pain, her moments of fierce determination as if they were his own. And she, he suspected, had felt his fear, his cynicism, and the buried remnants of hope he rarely allowed himself to acknowledge. Are you all right? Lyra resonated, her light patterns shifting, a gentle green swirling within the sapphire. He felt a wave of what he interpreted as concern emanating from her, a soft, probing energy that touched his awareness. Kale was startled by the question. It was simple, but deeply felt. Nobody had asked him that in years. Not since. Before? Yeah, he said a little too quickly. Just tired. Your internal resonance is agitated, she hummed. Your biological systems register stress. And something new, a heightened sensitivity. Her light patterns pulsed with a focused intensity. He felt that gentle probe again, deeper this time, touching the very core of that strange, tingling sensation within him. Kale flinched slightly. Yeah, well, crawling around in a metal tube with your whatever that was, kind of messes you up. Her light flowed, the green fading, replaced by a deeper, almost amused sapphire. My containment field resonance. Yes, in confined spaces, the energy reflects inwards, amplifying the effect. For my form, it is uncomfortable. For yours, it seems to have induced a state of hyperperception. Hyperperception? Kale frowned. You mean like, I can hear things better? Feel things more? Precisely, she resonated. Your nervous system, unaccustomed to such concentrated external energy, has been retuned. It is now more receptive to subtle environmental frequencies, including my own resonant field. He felt the tingling again, stronger this time, reacting to her words. It was like she was describing a part of himself he hadn't known existed until she woke it up. So you're saying, I'm sensitive now? Her light patterns flowed, a complex dance that seemed to convey a mixture of acknowledgement and something akin to pride. Significantly so. Your sensitivity to resonant frequencies has increased exponentially. Kale ran a hand over his face, a wry grin forming. Great. Just what every scavenger needs. To be sensitive. Lyra's light pulsed gently, a soft, warm note that seemed to resonate directly in his chest. He felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to reach out and touch her, to feel the substance of her light and the flow of her energy against his skin. The thought was intense, unexpected. He hadn't felt this kind of raw desire in. He couldn't remember how long. Sensitivity can be beneficial, she resonated, her voice soft. It allows you to perceive more, to understand more. Yeah, well, Right now, it's mostly letting me feel how much my head aches and how bad I need a shower, Kale muttered, trying to tamp down the sudden surge of feeling. He stood up. Let's check the ship's systems. Make sure we can get out of here if we need to. Then maybe see about those energy sources. He needed to move, to do something practical, to break the intense, charged stillness that had settled between them. He could still feel her gaze, not with eyes he could see, but with an energy that felt like it was seeing straight into his core. The vulnerability he had sensed in her was mirrored by a vulnerability he felt opening up inside himself, exposed by her presence, by the strange, new sensitivity she had awakened. Your internal resonance is very active when you are avoiding, she resonated, a hint of amusement in her hum. Kale froze, his hand on the console. She could read him, not just his words or actions, but the internal state, the hidden agitation he was trying to suppress. The sensitivity wasn't just external. It was internal too, allowing her to perceive him in a way no one ever had. The realization was both terrifying and exhilarating. I'm not avoiding anything, he said, forcing his voice to be neutral. Your resonant frequency flares, she responded calmly, like a shielded core attempting to suppress its own energy output. He turned back to her, frustration and something else, something akin to awe, churning inside him. You can just feel that? It is how I perceive the universe, she resonated, through the dance of resonant frequencies. Your form is unique, a dense, resilient core with a vibrant, complex internal energy signature, deliberately dampened. It creates fascinating echoes. He stared at her light, at the intricate patterns that spoke a language he was only just beginning to feel. He was transparent to her, in a way he never had been to anyone. All the walls he had built around himself, the carefully constructed defenses of cynicism and solitude, she could feel right through them. Don't, he said, his voice low. Don't analyze me. Her light pattern stilled, the flow pausing. The sapphire and amethyst remained, but they held a depth, a stillness he hadn't seen before. He felt a wave of something from her that quieted the agitation within him, a soothing energy that felt like a gentle touch against his hypersensitive nerves. I do not intend to intrude, she resonated, her hum soft, devoid of amusement now. My perception is simply present. It is not a judgment. He believed her, looking at her light, feeling the calm, powerful energy she emanated. He believed her. He felt a profound sense of exposure, but also a strange sense of safety. Being seen this completely, this deeply, wasn't as terrifying as he thought it would be. Not by her. Okay, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Okay. He walked over to the co-pilot's chair, the one Lyra had been near during the jump. He sank into it, suddenly exhausted. He could feel her proximity, the soft hum of her being, the subtle vibration in his bones. It was a connection unlike any he had ever known, forged in shared danger and amplified by the strange sensitivity she had gifted or perhaps inflicted upon him. He looked at her again, at the steady, silent glow of her light. They were stranded together on a desolate planet, hunted by slavers, bound by a connection that transcended species and understanding. And in the quiet of the ship under the alien sky, he felt a fragile hope blooming in the space where his solitude used to be. He felt the lingering resonance, the subtle pulsing vibration deep within him, an internal echo of her being. It was a constant reminder of the strange, raw connection they shared, a sensitivity that felt both like a vulnerability and a gift. He could feel the planet's low thrum beneath the ship, the distant shriek of the wind, the faint static electricity in the air, all heightened by his new awareness. Lyra's light remained steady, a pillar of sapphire and amethyst in the dim cockpit. She was calmer now, her form stable, drawing energy from the distant star and perhaps the residual fields of planet. Kale watched her, mesmerized by the silent flow of her internal patterns. The intense desire he felt earlier was still present, a quiet ache beneath the surface, amplified by his heightened senses. He felt drawn to her in a way that was both physical and something deeper, something that resonated with that new, vibrating core within him. The planet's resonance is complex, she hummed, her voice soft, layered, with echoes of ancient activity. Ancient activity? Kale said, pushing himself up from the co-pilot's chair. He needed to check the ship, but a part of him just wanted to sit there, feeling the quiet intensity of her presence. Mining, she confirmed. Significant energy was extracted from this crust, leaving behind energetic voids and residual fields that linger. Could those residual fields give you sustenance? Likely, they are a form of concentrated energy resonance. All right, then we need to find them. Kale went to the ship's external scanner controls, trying to bring up a topographical map of the plateau and the surrounding area. The old systems flickered, slow to respond. Your biological systems are still adapting, Lyra resonated, her light pulsing gently. Your internal frequency is high. You should regulate. How do I regulate? Kale asked, frustrated with the scanner and the buzzing in his head. Focus inwards, she resonated. Identify the point of highest resonant energy within your form. Align your intention with its natural rhythm. Kale blinked. My intention? This was too abstract. He was a mechanic and a pilot, not a mystic. Focus, she repeated, her hum deepening slightly. He felt a gentle pressure behind his eyes, not painful, just present. He closed his eyes, trying to follow her instruction. He focused on the tingling, buzzing sensation, trying to locate its source. It seemed to emanate from his chest, from that spot where her powerful resonance had pressed against him in the derelict. He tried to align his intention, whatever that meant, with its vibration. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the buzzing seemed to intensify briefly, before settling into a calmer, steadier rhythm. The pressure behind his eyes eased. He felt a wave of relaxation spread through him, a sense of calm he hadn't expected. He opened his eyes, looking at Lyra. What did you do? I guided your internal frequency, she resonated. Your resonant core is powerful, untrained. It requires conscious direction. So I have a resonant core now? Kale said, shaking his head. His life was getting complicated fast. Thanks, I guess. It is a part of your essential nature, she resonated. Now, awakened, he looked at her, at the soft glow that was both alien and suddenly intimately familiar. His essential nature, awakened by her. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. The desire returned, stronger this time, a deep thrumming that mirrored the new rhythm in his chest. It wasn't just physical. It was a longing for connection on a level he had never imagined possible. We should scout the area, he said, his voice a little hoarse. He needed to break the intensity. See what's out there. He went to the rear access panel and opened the airlock sequence. The inner door hissed open. He pulled on a thermal jacket. The planet's atmosphere was cold, even under the modest sun. He grabbed a portable scanner and his energy pistol. Ready? He asked, turning to Lyra. My form is not accustomed to atmospheric conditions outside controlled environments, she resonated. And the dense matter composition of this world will further interfere with my field. Kale stopped. He hadn't considered that. He just assumed she could follow him out. So you can't come? Her light pattern swirled with what looked like frustration or disappointment. Not, effectively. My movement would be sluggish. My resonance, dampened, it would be a liability. Right. He felt a pang of something, disappointment. He had gotten used to her presence, her strange resonance, her impossible light. You must go alone, she resonated. Find the energy sources. Report their location and resonance type. I will. Project my senses as far as the atmospheric density allows. Okay. Kale felt a sudden, unexpected loneliness. He was back to being alone, but it felt different now. He carried the echo of her resonance within him, the strange sensitivity that made him feel more connected to the world around him and more connected to her, even when she wasn't physically present. He stepped into the airlock chamber. I'll be back, he said, looking through the open inner door at her. Her light pulsed, a steady, warm beat. Be cautious. The resonance of this place holds hidden dangers. Hidden dangers, Kale repeated. Of course it did. He was on a forgotten planet, tied to an alien of light, hunted by slavers, and now he could feel the planet's moody vibrations in his bones. He sealed the inner door. The airlock cycled, equalizing pressure. He opened the outer door and stepped out onto the desolate plateau. The wind whipped around him, cold and biting. The sky was a muted gray. The crumbling ruins stood like ancient teeth against the horizon. He held the scanner, feeling the slight vibration of its electronics in his hand, amplified by his new sensitivity. He started walking towards the nearest structure, the silence heavy around him, broken only by the wind. But beneath the wind, deep within his core, he could still feel it, a faint, steady hum, the distant echo of Lyra's presence, watching, waiting, connecting him to her even across the physical distance. He felt the planet's resonance beneath his boots, a low, powerful thrumming that seemed to vibrate up through the ground. His enhanced senses picked up the faintest whispers in the environment, the groan of metal in the wind, the faint scrape of shifting rock, the subtle energetic fields emanating from the crumbling structures. It was overwhelming at first, a symphony of alien data pouring into his awareness. He focused, trying to apply Lyra's earlier instruction, finding the calm center of the heightened perception, trying to filter out the noise and focus on what was important. He walked towards the nearest collapsed building, scanning the area. The scanner pinged, picking up weak energy signatures within the ruins. Residual power conduits, old machinery. He approached cautiously, pistol at the ready. As he neared the structure, the residual energy signatures intensified, registering on his scanner and resonating palpably within his chest. It was a different frequency than Lyra's, rougher, more chaotic, but powerful. He could feel it in the air, a thick, heavy energy that made the hairs on his arms stand up. Suddenly, a panel slid open in the side of the wall he was approaching, revealing a dark opening. Kale stopped dead, raising his pistol. It hadn't been open a moment ago. "Hello," he called out. Only the wind responded. He felt a sudden, sharp spike in the ambient energy resonance, not from the residual power, but from something else, something alive, moving just beyond the opening. It was a predatory frequency, cold and calculating. Slavers. Hidden dangers. Lyra's resonant echo pulsed in his mind, a faint warning. He backed away slowly, his heart pounding. He should have known. This planet was a trap. Maybe they had followed him here, or maybe they had been here all along, using the derelict as bait. He needed to get back to the ship. He turned to run, but a figure emerged from the opening, bulky, armored, carrying a pulse rifle. Behind them, another emerged from a different section of the ruins. They had him boxed in. Well, look what the void dragged in, one of them growled, their voice distorted by a voice modulator. "Thought we lost you, scavenger. Didn't expect you'd bring us such valuable cargo. Though, valuable cargo. Lyra." They knew. They had tracked him, somehow, and knew he had her. The mid-story conflict was here. They hadn't just stumbled onto him. This was a deliberate ambush. Kale raised his pistol, but he was outnumbered, outgunned, and caught in the open. He felt Lyra's resonant presence in his mind intensify. A surge of frantic energy, of fear and fierce protective instinct directed at him. "Get back to the ship," he yelled toward her, knowing she could hear him through their strange connection. "Go. Leave me." Negative. Her resonant hum pulsed, sharp and strong, despite the distance and the atmospheric interference. "My form is stabilizing. I will assist." "You can't." Too late. Energy bolts screamed past him. He dove behind a fallen support beam as the ground around him erupted. The slavers advanced, their heavy boots crunching on the rock. He fired back, trying to keep them pinned down, but his energy pistol was no match for their pulse rifles and heavy armor. He could feel their predatory resonance closing in, a sickening wave of intent. Suddenly, the ground beneath the slavers began to tremble, not the planet's natural tremors, but a localized, powerful vibration. The crumbling walls around them groaned, dust and debris raining down. Lyra, she was projecting her resonance, amplifying the planet's natural instability in their immediate vicinity. The slavers paused, startled, their formations breaking. "What the hell is this?" one of them yelled. "Environmental hazard," another shouted. "Move!" They started to fall back, wary of the collapsing structures. Kale seized the opportunity, scrambling from behind the beam and sprinting back towards the ship. He could feel Lyra's resonant energy pulsing, guiding him, clearing a path, disrupting the slaver's footing with localized vibrations. He reached the ship's airlock, fumbling with the external panel to trigger the cycle. Energy bolts slammed into the hull around him. He threw himself into the chamber just as the inner door hissed open. He stumbled inside, hitting the seal button. The outer door hissed shut. He was safe inside the airlock. For now, he leaned against the wall, catching his breath. The inner door opened, revealing Lyra. Her light was brilliant, pulsating with a mixture of strain and relief. She glided towards him, her form shimmering slightly. "They are retreating," she resonated, her hum breathless. The localized resonance. It caused significant disruption. "You saved my ass," Kale said, pushing himself off the wall. He looked at her, at the radiant glow, feeling the powerful, protective energy that still thrummed through him for her efforts. "Our connection." It allowed for precise targeting, she resonated, her light softening slightly, settling back into the deep sapphire and amethyst, but with a vibrant, golden core still visible. Your presence acted as an anchor point for the resonant frequency. He stared at her, at the beauty and power contained within that light form. He had been ready to sacrifice himself, to tell her to leave, but she hadn't. She had stayed, risked herself, used her power to save him. And their connection, that strange, unwanted sensitivity, had made it possible. The tension in the airlock was thick, a charged blend of fear, relief, and a deepening intensity that crackled between them. The humid air of the airlock settled, the external sounds of storm and the retreating slavers fading as the ship sealed around them. Kale leaned against the inner door, still breathing heavily, his body buzzing with the residual energy from Lyra's localized resonance blast and the lingering hypersensitivity. His eyes were fixed on her. Her light was vibrant now, the sapphire and amethyst flow interspersed with swirls of deep gold, a visual representation of the energy she had just expended, and perhaps the emotion she felt. "You could have been caught," he said, his voice rough, "or disintegrated. Whatever it is you do." The risk was calculated, she resonated, her hum steady now, though still carrying an undertone of exertion. "Your survival is necessary. For my own." "Necessary?" Kale frowned. "Why? Just because I got you off that derelict?" Her light pattern shifted, the gold intensifying, radiating a warmth that seemed to spread through his chest. "More than that, the connection. It is reciprocal. My field required an anchor in that environment. Your resonant core, newly sensitized, provided that." His resonant core. He still couldn't quite get used to that term, but he had felt it. Felt the way his own internal vibrations seemed to align with hers during the attack, focusing her energy, making her powerful disruption possible. "So we're linked?" he asked, the question feeling inadequate to describe the complex reality of their bond. "Energetically," she confirmed, the experience in confined space. It accelerated the process. Your form is now attuned to mine, and I am more acutely aware of your presence, your state, through this link. Aware of his state. He remembered her comment about his agitated internal resonance, about his attempts to avoid. She could read him like an open book, or perhaps like an open energy signature. He felt a blush creep up his neck, a physical manifestation of his sudden, intense self-consciousness. Being so transparent to another being was unnerving, but also strangely compelling. He had spent so long hiding, burying his emotions, his past, his vulnerabilities. Now, with Lyra, there was nowhere to hide. Not from her. He took a step towards her. The air between them crackled with a silent energy. He could feel the warmth radiating from her light, feel the subtle vibration emanating from her form resonating within his own sensitized body. The desire was a powerful current, pulling him forward. "What else do you sense?" he asked, his voice low. Her light pattern shifted, the gold softening, replaced by a deep, rich emerald green swirling within the blue and violet. He felt a different kind of energy from her now, softer, more probing, filled with a complex blend of curiosity and something that felt undeniably like affection. "I sense your weariness," she resonated. "Your solitude, the remnants of something lost." The green deepened, a swirling vortex of emerald that seemed to draw him in. "And I sense a growing, resonant attraction within both our forms." He stopped just in front of her. He could feel the subtle energy field surrounding her, the delicate boundary between her form and the outer world. He wanted to cross that boundary. He wanted to know what it felt like to touch her, to feel the substance of her light, to bridge the gap between their wildly different beings. "Resonant attraction," he repeated, the words tasting strange on his tongue. He understood attraction. He understood desire. But resonant attraction, it implied a connection on a level he was only beginning to grasp. He raised a hand, his fingers trembling slightly. He reached out towards her light, hesitating just before making contact. "What happens if I—" Her light pulsed in response, the green swirling faster, the sapphire deepening. He felt a wave of energy wash over him, not disruptive like the combat resonance, but warm, inviting, pulling him closer. "Make contact," she resonated. Her hum lower now, a throaty vibration that sent shivers down his spine. "The energy transfer will be significant for both of us." Significant? He didn't know what that meant. Not really, but he knew he had to. Driven by instinct, by that deep, aching desire, by the strange, new sensitivity that felt intrinsically linked to her, he closed the distance. His fingers brushed against her form. It wasn't what he expected. It wasn't solid, not liquid, not gas. It felt like touching light, like plunging his hand into a stream of pure energy, contained within a structure that was simultaneously present and ethereal. A jolt went through him, a wave of raw power that resonated through every cell in his body. The tingling sensation he felt earlier exploded into a symphony of sensory input. Colors he couldn't name bloomed behind his eyes. Sound he couldn't hear resonated in his bones. Emotions that weren't his own surged through his consciousness. He felt Lyra's being, raw and unfiltered, pouring into him. He felt her power, her fragility, her complex internal universe of light and vibration. He felt her history, not as memories, but as resonant echoes, vast stretches of empty space, blinding nebulae, moments of intense joy and profound sorrow, the cold terror capture, the burning need for survival. It was overwhelming, breathtaking, a complete merging of senses and awareness. And within that surge, he felt her, the individual consciousness, the core of Lyra, reaching out to his own. He felt her curiosity about him, her fascination with his dense, complex form, her surprised delight at the depth of feeling she found within his supposedly dampened core. And he felt the resonant attraction, amplified by their contact, a powerful, undeniable pull that transcended physical form. His breath hitched. His resonant core, or whatever it was, pulsed wildly, responding to her energy, to her presence. He felt himself giving back to her, his own history, his loneliness, his quiet pain, his fierce protectiveness, his sudden, burning desire for her. The exchange was mutual, instantaneous, a complete bearing of their essential natures. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't expected to feel so much, to perceive so much, to be so utterly, profoundly exposed and connected all at once. His rational mind reeled, unable to process the sheer intensity of the experience. But his body, his awakened senses, understood. This was what it meant to be truly seen, truly known. This was the culmination of the strange journey they had embarked on, the point towards which their shared vulnerability and amplified senses had been leading. He felt her presence shift, drawing closer. Her resonant hum deepened, becoming a powerful, vibrating force that enveloped him, pulling him into a vortex of light and energy. He was losing himself in her, his physical form dissolving into the radiant intensity of her being, their consciousnesses merging, becoming one. It wasn't just intimacy, it was fusion, a raw, sensory, overwhelming union of light resonance and awakened human desire. He felt the full force of her being, an overwhelming symphony of light, resonance, and pure, vibrant energy. Their brief touch had opened a floodgate, their intertwined energies flowing together, creating a vortex of sensation that consumed him. He was no longer just Kale, the scavenging pilot. He was Kale, vibrating in harmony with Lyra, his dense physical form a counterpoint to her ethereal light. He felt her resonant hum deepen, vibrating not just in his bones, but in the very air around them, creating a cocoon of intense energy. Her light pulsed and swirled around him, a dazzling display of shifting colors and patterns that spoke a language beyond words. The sapphire depth, the amethyst mystery, the golden warmth, the emerald curiosity, they flowed together, mirroring the turbulent intensity within him. His physical senses were overwhelmed, replaced by a raw, visceral awareness of her. He felt the delicate structure of her form pressing against him, not with weight, but with a focused energy that permeated his skin, his muscles, his organs. He felt the flow of her internal light, tracing pathways within her crystalline structure, vibrant currents of pure power. He felt the rhythmic pulse of her resonant core, beating in perfect, overwhelming synchronicity with his own newly awakened one. His body reacted instinctively, beyond conscious thought. His arms wrapped around the space where her form was closest, pulling her tighter, wanting to merge completely, to become one with this impossible being of light and energy. He buried his face in the source of her light, breathing in an atmosphere that smelled not of air, but of pure energy, of distant stars and cosmic dust, of something ancient and profoundly alive. He felt her awareness, her consciousness, enveloping his, exploring the contours of his mind, the landscape of his emotions. There was no judgment, only intense curiosity and a deep, profound acceptance. She felt the pain he carried, the loneliness that had been his constant companion, the fierce protectiveness that had surged to the surface for her. And she accepted it all, weaving it into the tapestry of their shared experience. Her resonant hum shifted, lowering in frequency, becoming a deep, guttural vibration that resonated directly in his groin, a primal, physical response that was amplified tenfold by his hypersensitivity. His body was responding to her on a level he hadn't known was possible, an elemental reaction to pure, concentrated energy channeled to the form of this alien creature who had awakened him. He felt her light intensify around him, the golden patterns becoming dominant, radiating a heat that was both physical and energetic. It felt like he was being bathed in a star's core, consumed by a gentle, searing fire. His own resonant core pulsed in response, generating its own heat, its own energy, matching hers beat for beat. He gasped, his breath catching in his throat. The sensory input was almost too much, pushing him to the brink of consciousness. But he didn't want it to stop. This was connection. This was intimacy. This was everything he hadn't known he was starving for. He felt her pull back slightly, the intense energy swirling around him calming. Though the connection remained, a palpable link between them. The blurring of their forms ceased, his physical body reasserting itself, trembling with the aftereffects of the energy exchange. He clung to her, his face still buried in the source of her light, his body humming with a resonant energy that felt both his own and hers. Significant, he whispered, the word inadequate, a clumsy human attempt to describe the indescribable. Her light softened, settling back into a steady, deep sapphire and amethyst flow, though the gold and green still lingered in the patterns, vibrant with recent experience. Her resonant hum returned to its softer rhythm, but it felt different now, imbued with a warmth, a tenderness he hadn't sensed before. "Yes," she resonated, her voice soft, intimate, vibrating against his ear, against his mind, against his very soul. Significant. He pulled back slightly, looking at her, at the beautiful, alien form that contained such power, such vulnerability, such capacity for connection. His heart was still pounding, his body still buzzing, his senses still reeling from the intensity of their fusion. I don't even know what just happened, he admitted, feeling raw and exposed. We resonated, she hummed, on a fundamental level. Our energy fields aligned your dormant resonant core. It interacted with my containment field in a manner that created a transient singularity of unified perception and sensation. He didn't understand the technical terms, but he understood the feeling. He had touched the core of her being, and she had touched his. They had merged for a moment into something more than the sum of their parts. He felt a lingering sensitivity in his body, now interwoven with profound sense of completion, of belonging. He could still feel the echo of her light within him, a faint, constant hum that was no longer disorienting, but felt like an intrinsic part of himself. He reached out again, hesitantly, and this time, when his fingers met her form, it was different. The intense, overwhelming surge was gone, replaced by a gentle flow of warmth, a steady resonance that felt like coming home. "You made me so sensitive," he said, a soft smile touching his lips. "Now I can't walk away." Her light patterns shifted, the sapphire deepening, the amethyst swirling with a gentle current of gold. He felt her resonant hum deepen in response, a low, vibrating sound that resonated with pure affection, with mutual understanding, with the promise of an uncertain future they would now face together. "Good," she resonated, her hum warm and soft. "Neither can I." The airlock, silent and enclosed, became their sanctuary. The storm raged outside. The slavers lurked somewhere in the ruins, but inside the Straylight, in the heart of the derelict planet, they had found each other. A human man, broken and alone, and an alien woman of light, hunted and vulnerable, bound together by a connection that transcended biology, a resonant attraction that had awakened dormant parts of them both, leading to an intimacy that was raw, overwhelming, and utterly profound. The journey was far from over, but they would face it together, their energies intertwined, their resonant cores beating as one. The strange sensitivity he felt wasn't a burden. It was the path to her, the key to a connection deeper than he had ever dreamed possible. And in the quiet of the ship, surrounded by her gentle, steady light, he knew he would never be alone again.